What up? Just getting a little late night walk in. Feel like a copycat here. Devin with Beast Bodybuilding, I know, likes to do these down in Florida. Walking and talking. In my case, it's basically just so I was diagnosed with femoral acetabular impingement syndrome, probably like back in April or March. So I got basically, in layman's terms, a bone spur in my hip. Only thing I can do about it is find ways to work around it or get surgery. Obviously, I've been working around it fairly well, so given that I'm in a prep, not planning on having surgery anytime soon. But basically what's happening right now is I have a deload week, and so it's flaring up with all the high intensity intervals and stuff, and so currently I'm just taking a walk around the neighborhood a little bit at night, just get a little extra calories burned. But basically, quick topic or lessons learned of tonight's little vlog here is basically just, I would say, I'm going to call it two things. One is, allowing yourself enough time to prep for a show, and then two, planning out your toolbox. So by allowing enough time, in terms of getting started, originally I said to myself, I had this glorious plan. So I contacted Cliff Wilson, wanted him to help me with my prep, and I said, you know what, I want to do something totally different. I want to take an entire year and basically diet in 10 or 12 week blocks, and say every 10 or 12 weeks throw in a week where it's kind of like a refeed week, just for the idea of thinking, you know what, you got two things going on. One, you either have people that diet forever, and doing that for so long is going to cause the metabolism to slow down, or two, they're going to diet with not a lot of time to get it done, to where that aggressiveness of the cut is also going to cause their metabolism to slow. So I thought, if I could marry the two, I'm the type, I'm always trying to find better ways to do things. I always go against the grain. I always, I'd say, do things a little differently than a lot of people. And sometimes I think for good reasons, sometimes maybe a little because I'm stubborn and like to be different. But so that's what I was thinking about doing. Sounded like a great plan. As someone who'd been basically bulking for, like a 10-year period, just getting myself to let go of food initially. I mean, I eat so much food in the off season. It just was really hard. I don't know. I just didn't really grasp the concept of that. You know what? It's okay to cut back on your food, particularly when you're starting, the sky high intake. You're really not going to lose that much strength, etc. So that would be my lesson learned here, is that start a little more aggressively. Doesn't have to be anything crazy, but maybe a little faster than you would think. Feel free to get a good coach, obviously, to guide you with that, but you can always add food back in. But get that jump start rolling. Definitely something I'm regretting now. I started back in September with a plan, September 2012, with a plan of doing shows September 2013, and then obviously now here I am, September 2013 almost, and realizing, crap, I need several more weeks. And honestly, like I said, I didn't really move the needle on the scale hardly at all from September to November 2012, just simply from being timid and so afraid to lose strength. And now here I am almost a year later, and relatively speaking, most of my strength is still here. Obviously some of my pressing strength is gone. That's a common phenomenon that people explain, but for the most part it's still here. So totally overreacted. So I'm just going to cut that right there, allowing enough time. You hear it all the time, coming from someone like me who thought they knew what they were doing, thought they were allowing so much time, with a year's time. But even having a lot of time is going to go real fast if you don't get on it and get a good jump start on things while you still have a lot of food in your diet. So that'd be my lesson learned one. Then lesson learned two, and more just kind of a tip, I'd say, is plan out your whole toolbox. Some of this comes from me, some of this comes from Cliff, but basically, what are all the things that you have at your disposal? Ooh, we got a spectator cat hanging out over here. Zoom in on this guy. Probably can't even see him. He's checking me out. Anyways, so everything in your toolbox, right? So let me just give an example. So you get started, you got cardio, you got calories you can cut, you start worrying about losing muscle, right? You could throw in more branched chain amino acids, you could throw in more HMB. With the cardio, obviously whether it's going to be HIIT or low intensity, how much of it. frequency of training, volume of training, how you're going to maybe undulate your carbohydrates, just a variety of things to work with. And I know myself, and even a big one that's coming lately, volume of food, right? So suddenly things like, I love eating like canned tropical fruit salad and stuff, and I used to have raisins a lot as a post-workout carb, and now I'm just like, shit, there's no way you're gonna find me doing those things. I'll be eating apple slices, strawberries, just anything I can do to get more volume and just be able to chew on more food. Same thing, all the brown rice I was eating is now rice cakes, just because it's more volume. I'm starting to remove bread that I used to have in sandwiches, again in favor of things like rice cakes, popcorn. So every time I have to make a carb cut now, I'm thinking like, crap, this sucks, I have to cut more carbs. But if I can think of a way to do it in a way that either leaves me at an equivalent volume or not, if not even adds greater volume, to where yes, I'm eating less calories, but it feels volume wise like I'm still eating the same amount. So those are all just, to me, things you have in your toolbox. And the biggest sign those things have come up for me this prep is basically anytime I hit one of those points where it just kind of reality sets in, right? Like, here we go, shit, like, it's time to add some more cardio, there's no getting away from it now, or it's time to cut some more food, or it's time to pick up the pace. And to me, every time you have those moments where you're really having to think, like, this is getting real, this is not getting easy, I think anytime you have those moments, it's a great time to stop and say, what can I do to make this easier, right? Obviously, bodybuilding preps, who do I know, right? I'm just about to get into the really hard part, but from what I do know so far, it's certainly not easy. And so anything you can do to work smarter, not harder, I think is awesome, is always the way to go. So plan out that toolbox, all the different things that you can do to make each subsequent step, the deeper you get, the harder it gets, to both make it easier on yourself and then also easier on your body, right, by implementing all those different things that I mentioned. Starting to ramble here, gonna cut this short, gonna try and keep these a little more timely than the first one, and hopefully just keep recapping. So got some police sirens going off here. What I'm basically recapping is kind of my first 10 weeks-ish, things that if I could go back and was doing a prep maybe 3 years from now, that I'd probably do differently. So hopefully some of that's helpful. Thanks for watching. See you.